Maya woke up to the sound of rain hammering against the roof of her car. It was still dark outside, probably around 5 in the morning. She'd been living in this beat-up Honda for 6 months now, parked behind an old strip mall where nobody bothered her. The owner had long since abandoned the place, and the few businesses still operating on the other side never came around back. She pulled the thin blanket tighter around her shoulders and tried to go back to sleep, but it was no use. Once she was awake, the cold always kept her that way. November had hit hard this year, and her car heater had stopped working weeks ago. She'd stuffed towels around the doors to keep the wind out, but it only helped so much. 23 years old and living in a car. This wasn't how life was supposed to turn out. But then again, Maya had learned a long time ago that life didn't really care about what was supposed to happen. She'd been left at a fire station when she was just days old. No note, no name, nothing. The firefighters found her in a basket early one morning, wrapped in a yellow blanket that had seen better days. They named her Maya because one of them had a daughter with that name, and he said she had the same tiny nose. It was the only story about her beginning that she'd ever liked. Foster care became her whole world after that. 13 different homes in 18 years. Some were okay. Most were just there for the monthly check. A few were bad enough that she still had nightmares about them. She learned quickly not to get attached to anything or anyone. Stuffed animals disappeared. Toys got taken away. Friends moved schools. Foster siblings came and went like weather. When she turned 18, the system was done with her. They gave her a garbage bag for her stuff, a pamphlet about resources, and wished her good luck. She'd been on her own ever since. 5 years of bouncing between jobs she couldn't keep, apartments she couldn't afford, and people who eventually got tired of helping her. The truth was, Maya was tired too. Tired of fighting, tired of hoping, tired of waking up every day to the same emptiness. She'd stopped believing that things could get better. How could they? Nobody had ever wanted her. Not her birth mother, not any of the foster families, not the few boyfriends who'd promised to stick around. She was just someone people left behind. By 6:30, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. Maya grabbed her backpack and headed to the gas station 3 blocks away. They had a bathroom that locked, and if she went early enough, she could wash up before the morning rush started. The attendant, an older guy named Frank, pretended not to notice that she came in every morning smelling like someone who slept in their clothes. She was grateful for small mercies like that. She scrubbed her face with paper towels and cold water, brushed her teeth, and changed into the cleaner of her 2 shirts. There was a restaurant across town hiring for a server position. She'd seen the help wanted sign yesterday. Maybe today would be different. Maybe this job would stick. Walking back across the parking lot, Maya counted the money in her pocket. $23. Enough for a few more days of food if she was careful. The tank was nearly empty, but she could probably make it to the restaurant and back on what was left. After that, she'd have to figure something out. She always did. That's when she heard it. At first, she thought it was a cat. The sound was so faint, so weak that she almost missed it completely. But something made her stop. Something made her turn toward the dumpsters behind the gas station. The crying got a little louder. Maya's heart started pounding. She walked slowly toward the green dumpster, the one that always smelled like rotting food and old coffee. The crying was coming from behind it. What she found there made her blood run cold. There was a cardboard box, the kind that cases of beer come in, and inside that box, wrapped in a dirty blanket that might have been white once, was a baby. A real, living baby. Maya dropped to her knees so fast she felt the concrete scrape through her jeans. Her hands were shaking as she reached for the infant. The baby was so small, so impossibly small. A girl, she thought. Though it was hard to tell under all those blankets. The little face was red from crying, and when Maya touched her cheek, it was ice cold. "Oh my God," Maya whispered. "Oh my God, oh my God." The baby's lips had a blue tint to them. Her tiny fingers were like ice. How long had she been out here? Hours, all night? Maya scooped the infant up, box and all, and held her close to her chest. The baby kept crying, but it was getting weaker. That was bad. That was really bad. Maya had never held a baby before. Didn't know anything about taking care of one, but even she knew that weak crying meant the little one was giving up. "No, no, no," Maya said, rocking back and forth. "Don't do that. Don't give up. Stay with me." She looked around wildly, as if the person who'd left this baby might suddenly appear, but the parking lot was empty except for Frank's beat-up truck and her Honda. No cars. No people. Nobody. Someone had left this baby here to die. The thought hit Maya like a punch to the stomach. Someone had carried this tiny person to a dumpster behind a gas station and just walked away. Left her in the cold. Left her to cry until she couldn't cry anymore. Maya knew that feeling. She knew what it was like to be thrown away. Her phone was in her back pocket. She should call 911. She needed to call 911. But for some reason, she couldn't move. She just sat there on the cold, wet concrete, holding this stranger's baby, feeling more connected to another human being than she had in years. This baby was her. 23 years ago, this had been Maya, left for someone else to find. Left like she didn't matter. Left like she was nothing. "You're not nothing," Maya whispered to the baby. "You hear me? You're not nothing." The infant's crying had almost stopped completely. Her little chest was barely moving. Maya's own chest felt like it was being crushed. She pulled out her phone with trembling fingers and dialed 911. 911. "What's your emergency?" "I found a baby," Maya said, her voice cracking. "Behind the gas station on Miller Road. She's really cold. I think she's dying." "Is the baby breathing?" Maya looked down at the tiny face. "Barely. Please hurry, please, and we're sending an ambulance now. Stay on the line with me." "Can you feel a pulse?" Maya carefully pressed her fingers against the baby's neck, the way she'd seen on TV shows. There was something there, faint and fast. "Yes, but she's so cold. Keep her warm. Hold her against your body. Don't cover her face. The ambulance is 3 minutes away." 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. Maya held the baby close, sharing what little warmth she had. She kept talking, even though the dispatcher had told her the baby probably couldn't understand. It didn't matter. Maya needed to talk. "Someone's coming," she said softly. "You're going to be okay. They're going to take care of you. You're going to be warm soon. You're going to be safe." She was saying all the things she'd wanted someone to say to her when she was little, all the promises nobody had ever made. "Someone will want you," Maya continued, tears running down her face. "Someone will love you. You're going to have a good life. I promise, I promise." In the distance, she could hear sirens. Help was coming. The baby would be okay. She had to be okay. Maya looked down at the tiny face one more time and felt something shift inside her chest, something she couldn't name but felt in every bone of her body. This moment mattered. This baby mattered. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Maya felt like maybe she mattered too. The ambulance pulled into the parking lot, lights flashing red and blue against the gray morning sky. Paramedics rushed over with bags and equipment. Maya didn't want to let go, but she knew she had to. As they took the baby from her arms, Maya felt emptier than she'd ever felt before. And that was saying something. What she didn't know yet was that this wouldn't be the last time she'd hold that little girl. What she didn't know was that finding this baby would change everything. That sometimes saving someone else is the first step to saving yourself. But that morning, all Maya knew was that she'd found an abandoned baby behind a dumpster. And somehow, in that terrible moment, she'd found something else too. She just didn't have a name for it yet. The paramedics worked fast. One of them, a woman with kind eyes and steady hands, took the baby from Maya and immediately started checking her vital signs. The other, a younger guy who looked barely older than Maya herself, started asking questions. "How long has she been out here?" "I don't know," Maya said, her voice hollow. "I just found her, maybe 10 minutes ago. She was crying, but then she stopped." "Did you see anyone? Anyone leaving the area?" Maya shook her head. "Nobody. It was just me and Frank inside the station." The female paramedic was already carrying the baby toward the ambulance. "We need to get her to County General. She's hypothermic. Core temp is way too low." Maya stood there watching them load the tiny cardboard box with the baby inside into the back of the ambulance. She felt frozen, like her feet had grown roots into the concrete. The younger paramedic was still asking her questions, but his voice sounded far away. Miss, I need you to focus. Did you move the baby? Was she in the box when you found her?" "Yes, behind the dumpster. In the box." Maya wrapped her arms around herself. "Is she going to be okay?" "We're doing everything we can. The police are on their way. They'll need a statement from you." The ambulance doors closed, and just like that, they were gone. Sirens wailing, lights flashing, disappearing down Miller Road like the last few minutes had never happened. Except they had. Maya's shirt was still damp from holding the baby close. Her hand still remembered the weight of that small, fragile life. Frank came out of the gas station looking confused and worried. "What's going on?" "I saw the ambulance. There was a baby," Maya said quietly. "Someone left a baby by the dumpster." Frank's face went pale. "Jesus Christ. Is she alive?" "I think so. I hope so." 2 police cars pulled up before Frank could say anything else. Maya spent the next hour answering questions, showing them exactly where she'd found the box, describing everything she'd seen and heard. One officer took photos while another called for detectives. By the time they were done, the sun had fully risen, and the morning rush at the gas station was in full swing. People walked by buying their coffee and lottery tickets, completely unaware that a baby had nearly died right there a few hours ago. The world just kept moving like nothing had happened. Before the police left, Maya asked them which hospital they'd taken the baby to. The older detective, a tired-looking man with gray at his temples, gave her a long look before answering. "County General. But they won't let you see her. She's in state custody now. I just want to know if she's okay." The detective's expression softened a little. "You did good finding her when you did. Probably saved her life. We'll be in touch if we need anything else." Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She gave them her phone number, even though she knew the prepaid minutes would probably run out in a week or two. After they left, Maya sat in her car for a long time, staring at nothing. She'd forgotten about the job interview, forgotten about everything except that tiny blue face and those weak little cries. She couldn't stop thinking about the person who'd left that baby there. Was it the mother? Had she been desperate, scared? Or had she just not cared at all? Maya wanted to understand, wanted there to be some reason that made sense. But she kept coming back to the same question. How do you walk away from something so small and helpless? 3 days passed. Maya couldn't let it go. She called the hospital every morning asking about the baby. The first time, the nurse hung up on her. The second time, they told her they couldn't give out information about patients. The third time, a different nurse recognized her voice. "You're the one who found her, aren't you?" Yes, there was a pause. "She's stable. They moved her out of intensive care yesterday. She's going to be fine thanks to you." Maya felt her eyes fill with tears. "Thank you. Thank you for telling me. What's your name, honey?" "Maya." "Well, Maya, that baby is one lucky little girl that you were there that morning." But Maya didn't feel lucky. She felt hollow and lost and more alone than ever, because now she knew the baby was okay, but she also knew she'd never see her again. The system would place her somewhere, probably with a foster family, and she'd grow up never knowing about the girl who'd found her behind a dumpster. 2 more days passed. Maya couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The $23 had dwindled to $8. She needed to find work, needed to do something productive. But all she could think about was that baby. On the 6th day after finding her, Maya made a decision that probably wasn't smart, but felt necessary. She drove to County General and asked to visit the baby. The woman at the information desk shook her head. "I'm sorry, but only family members can visit infants in our care." "Are you family?" "No, but I'm the one who found her. I just want to see that she's okay." "I understand, but I can't let you up without authorization." Maya stood there, feeling defeated, when a voice behind her said, "She's with me." Maya turned to find a woman in her 50s, wearing a blazer and carrying a folder stuffed with papers. She had short gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through people. "I'm Patricia Reeves, social worker with Child Services. You're Maya, correct? The one who found the baby?" Maya nodded, surprised. "I was hoping to meet you. Come with me." Patricia led Maya through a maze of hallways to the maternity wing. Along the way, she explained that they'd been trying to identify the mother but hadn't had any luck yet. The baby was healthy now, gaining weight, no longer in danger. "Why did you come here?" Patricia asked as they walked. "I don't know. I just needed to see her." Patricia stopped and looked at Maya, really looked at her. "The detective mentioned you live in your car." Maya felt her face flush. "It's temporary. How long?" 6 months. "That's not temporary." Patricia's voice wasn't judgmental, just matter of fact. "Were you in the system?" Maya was so surprised by the question that she answered honestly. "Yes, aged out at 18. Patricia nodded like that explained everything. Maybe it did. They reached a large window looking into the nursery. Patricia pointed to a bassinet in the corner. "That's her. They're calling her Baby Jane Doe for now." Maya pressed her hand against the glass. The baby looked so different from that morning behind the dumpster. She was pink now, healthy. Someone had put her in a white onesie with little ducks on it. She was sleeping peacefully, her tiny chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. "She's beautiful," Maya whispered. "She is, and she's alive because of you." They stood there for a while, not talking. Maya couldn't take her eyes off the baby. Something about seeing her warm and safe made the knot in Maya's chest loosen just a little bit. Finally, Patricia spoke again. "Can I buy you a cup of coffee? There's a cafeteria downstairs." Maya wanted to say no, wanted to get back to her car before someone towed it, but something in Patricia's tone made her say yes instead. The cafeteria was nearly empty. Patricia bought them both coffee and a sandwich for Maya, who hadn't eaten anything but vending machine crackers in 2 days. They sat by a window overlooking the parking lot. "Tell me about yourself," Patricia said. It wasn't what Maya expected. "There's not much to tell." "I doubt that," so Maya told her. "Not everything, but enough. The fire station, the foster homes, the aging out, the jobs that never worked out, the car." She left out the worst parts, the stuff she didn't talk about with anyone, but Patricia seemed to read between the lines anyway. "You know what's going to happen to her, don't you?" Patricia asked, nodding toward the ceiling, toward the baby upstairs. "The baby? Foster care, probably, unless we find the mother and she wants to keep her. But based on the circumstances, that seems unlikely." Maya felt sick. "She'll hate it. Maybe. Or maybe she'll get lucky and find a good family. There's no such thing as a good foster family." "Not really. They all leave eventually." Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised Maya. "You're probably right to be cynical. The system failed you. It fails a lot of kids, but that doesn't mean it always fails. It failed her already," Maya said, gesturing upward again. "Her own mother threw her away, and you picked her up." The words hung in the air between them. Maya felt her throat tighten. Patricia leaned forward. "Can I tell you something? In my 23 years doing this job, I've seen a lot of terrible things. Parents who hurt their kids who hurt themselves, a system that's broken in more ways than I can count. But I've also seen something else. I've seen people who've been through hell find the strength to pull someone else out of it. You could have walked past that dumpster. You didn't. Anyone would have stopped. You'd be surprised." Maya looked down at her coffee. "I just keep thinking about her growing up like I did. Moving from house to house. Never belonging anywhere. Never being anyone's first choice, Mung. I know." Patricia's voice was gentle. "But you're not responsible for fixing that. You already saved her life. That's more than most people ever do for a stranger. But the baby didn't feel like a stranger. That was the problem. Maya had only held her for a few minutes, but it had been enough to create some kind of connection she couldn't explain. They talked for another hour. Patricia told her about resources for people who'd aged out of foster care, housing programs, job training, support groups. Maya had heard about some of them before, but she'd never followed through. It always seemed pointless. What was the point of getting help just to end up alone again? But Patricia was persistent. She wrote down names and numbers. She made Maya promise to call at least one of them, and then she said something that would change everything. That baby upstairs needs people in this world who care about her, people who understand where she came from, people like you. Maya looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean that you found her for a reason. Maybe someday when she's old enough she should know that someone cared enough to save her." The idea planted itself in Maya's mind like a seed. She didn't know what to do with it yet, but it was there, growing. When Maya left the hospital that day, she had Patricia's business card in her pocket and something she hadn't felt in years stirring in her chest. It felt dangerous. It felt impossible. It felt like hope. Maya stared at the phone number Patricia had written on the back of her business card. It was for something called the Transitional Living Program for Former Foster Youth. She'd been sitting in her car for 20 minutes, working up the courage to dial. What was the point? She'd tried getting help before, applied for apartments that required income she didn't have, showed up at job interviews where they took one look at her address and stopped being interested. The world wasn't set up for people like her, but she kept thinking about what Patricia had said. That baby upstairs needs people who care about her. Maya took a breath and made the call. The woman who answered sounded tired but kind. Her name was Helen, and she ran the transitional housing program out of an old church building on the east side. They had 6 rooms available for young adults aging out of foster care. Rent was based on income, which meant Maya could actually afford it. "How soon can you come see the place?" Helen asked. "Today?" "Today works." "How about 2 o'clock?" Maya agreed and hung up, her heart pounding. This felt different somehow, like maybe things could actually change. The building was older than she'd expected, with faded yellow paint and windows that probably leaked in the rain. But inside it was clean, warm. Helen showed her a small room on the 2nd floor with a twin bed, a desk, and a dresser. There was a shared kitchen down the hall and a bathroom she'd split with 2 other residents. "It's not fancy," Helen said, "but it's safe. And it's yours as long as you need it." Maya felt her eyes sting. "Why are you helping me?" Helen smiled. "Because someone helped me once. I was in your shoes 20 years ago, living out of my car thinking I didn't deserve better. But I did, and so do you." Moving in took less than an hour because Maya didn't have much. 2 bags of clothes, a few books, her phone charger. Everything she owned fit on top of the dresser with room to spare. That first night in a real bed, Maya couldn't sleep. It was too quiet, too safe. Her body kept waiting for something bad to happen because that's what always happened when things started to feel okay. But nothing bad happened. The next morning, Helen connected her with a job training program at the community college. They taught medical billing and coding, which sounded boring but practical. It was a 6-month course, and they'd help her find work afterward. There was even a small stipend for students who qualified, which Maya did. For the first time in years, Maya had a plan. A real one, not just survival day to day, but she still couldn't stop thinking about the baby. She called the hospital every few days, always getting the same nurse who recognized her voice. The baby was thriving, getting bigger, already in foster care now, placed with a temporary family while the state worked on finding a permanent solution. Maya should have felt relieved. The baby was safe. That's all that mattered. Instead, she felt like something was missing. Like she'd found a piece of herself in that parking lot and then had to give it away. Patricia called her 3 weeks after they'd met at the hospital. "How's the housing situation working out?" "Good. Really good, actually." Maya was sitting at the desk in her room working on homework for her medical billing class. "I'm in a training program now, too, I heard," Helen told me. "I'm proud of you, Maya." The words hit harder than they should have. Nobody had ever said they were proud of her. Maya had to clear her throat before she could speak. "Thanks. Listen, there's a support group that meets every Thursday night at the community center. Other people who grew up in foster care. I think you should go." Maya's first instinct was to say no. She didn't do groups, didn't share her feelings with strangers, but then she remembered that feeling of hope she'd had leaving the hospital, and how maybe trying new things was part of whatever was happening to her. "Okay," she said. "I'll try it." The support group met in a room with folding chairs arranged in a circle. There were 8 people there, ranging from Maya's age to people in their 40s. A woman named Denise ran the group. She'd been in foster care herself and now worked as a counselor. At first, Maya just listened. People talked about their experiences. The good homes and the bad ones. The families who'd cared and the ones who'd only cared about the check. The feeling of being unwanted. The fear of abandonment that followed them into adult relationships. The way they sabotaged good things because they didn't believe they deserved them. Maya felt like they were reading from her diary. When it was her turn to share, she surprised herself by actually talking. She told them about living in her car, about finding the baby, about how she couldn't stop thinking about what would happen to that little girl. "Do you want to stay connected to her?" Denise asked gently. "I don't know. Maybe, is that crazy?" An older guy named Tom spoke up.
"I found my birth mom when I was 25.
"Everyone thought I was crazy for wanting to meet the woman who'd given me up. But I needed to know, needed to understand." "What happened?" Maya asked. She was a mess. Still is, honestly. But meeting her gave me closure. I stopped wondering, stopped making up stories in my head about why she left me. A younger woman named Bethany added, "Sometimes we need to go back to move forward. It's not crazy. It's human." After the meeting, several people exchanged numbers with Maya. Bethany invited her to get coffee sometime. Tom told her about a job fair coming up that might have opportunities for people finishing training programs. Walking back to the transitional house, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. She felt less alone, but the feeling about the baby didn't go away. If anything, it got stronger. 4 months passed. Maya finished her medical billing course and got certified. She found a job at a small clinic making $12 an hour, which was more money than she'd ever made in her life. She moved from transitional housing into a tiny studio apartment that cost most of her paycheck, but it was hers. Her name on the lease. Her key in the lock. She kept going to the support group. Kept building friendships with people who understood her in ways nobody else could. Kept working with a therapist Patricia had recommended to deal with her abandonment issues, and she kept thinking about the baby. By now, the little girl would be almost 10 months old. Walking maybe, or close to it. Laughing, growing, living with a foster family that might adopt her or might not. Maya knew she should let it go. The baby was fine. Maya's life was finally coming together. She had a job, a home, people who cared about her. She should focus on that, but she couldn't. One Thursday night at group, Maya finally said what she'd been thinking for months. I want to become a foster parent. For the baby I found. The room went quiet. Denise leaned forward. Tell me more about that. I know it sounds insane. I'm barely keeping myself together. I'm 24 and I just got my first real job. But I can't stop thinking about her. And I understand what she's going to go through better than anyone else could. I know what it feels like to be unwanted. I could make sure she never feels that way. That's a beautiful impulse, Denise said carefully. But fostering is incredibly hard, especially for someone who's still healing from their own trauma. Tom nodded. I tried to foster when I was 26. It triggered everything I'd been working through. I wasn't ready. So when are you ready? Maya asked, frustrated. When is anyone ready? Bethany, who usually stayed quiet, spoke up. Maybe it's not about being ready. Maybe it's about being willing. Willing to do the work. Willing to fail. Willing to try anyway. Maya met her eyes. Exactly. After group, Denise pulled Maya aside. If you're serious about this, you need to be prepared for a long process. Background checks, home studies, classes, psychological evaluations. They're going to dig into every part of your life. I don't care. And even if you get approved, there's no guarantee they'll place that specific baby with you. The foster system doesn't work that way. I know. Denise studied her for a long moment. You've come a long way in the past few months. But fostering will test you in ways you can't imagine. It will bring up every feeling of abandonment, every fear, every wound you're trying to heal. I know, Maya said again, but I have to try. The next day, Maya called Patricia. I want to become a foster parent. What do I need to do? There was a long pause on the other end. Are you sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Patricia sighed, but it sounded fond. Okay, let's talk about what's involved. The process was even harder than Maya had imagined. The background checks were easy enough since she'd never been in trouble with the law. But the home study was brutal. A social worker came to her apartment and asked her questions about her childhood, her relationships, her mental health, her plans for the future. Why do you want to foster? The social worker asked. Maya had practiced her answer, but when the moment came, she threw away the script. Because I was that baby once, left somewhere for someone to find. And nobody who raised me really understood what that felt like. I want to give her what I never had. What's that? Someone who gets it. Someone who won't leave. The parenting classes were overwhelming. She learned about trauma-informed care, attachment disorders, developmental milestones. She learned that love wasn't enough. That damaged kids needed consistency and patience, and understanding that went beyond what most people could give. She learned that she might not be enough. But she kept going anyway. The psychological evaluation was the hardest part. Sitting across from a therapist who asked about every painful moment of her childhood, every fear she'd buried, every reason she might not be stable enough to care for someone else. Do you think you're trying to save yourself by saving this baby? The therapist asked. Maya thought about lying, thought about giving the right answer, but she'd learned in group that healing required honesty. Maybe. Probably, but does that make it wrong? If saving her helps save me too, isn't that okay? The therapist wrote something down. I think that's the most honest answer anyone's given me to that question. 6 months after starting the process, Maya got the call. She'd been approved as a foster to adopt parent. But there was a catch. The baby you found is in a stable placement right now, Patricia explained. They're not looking to move her unless something changes. But you're approved for other placements, infants, toddlers. Would you be willing to take another child? Maya's heart sank. I want her. I know. But the system doesn't always give us what we want. It gives us what we need. Maya didn't believe that. The system had never given her what she needed, but she told Patricia yes anyway. Because maybe Bethany had been right. Maybe it wasn't about being ready. Maybe it was just about being willing to try. Maya stood in the middle of her studio apartment staring at the empty corner where she'd set up a small area for a child. A portable crib she'd bought secondhand. A basket of toys from the thrift store. A small bookshelf with picture books that Bethany had given her from when her own kids were little. 2 months had passed since she'd been approved as a foster parent, and she hadn't received a single call. Patricia kept telling her to be patient, that the right placement would come. But Maya wasn't good at patience. She'd spent her whole life waiting for something good to happen. She went to work at the clinic every day, processing insurance claims and medical codes. It was boring work but steady. She'd gotten a small raise after 3 months. Her boss said she was reliable. Maya had never been called reliable before. The support group had become the best part of her week. Tom was teaching her to budget better. Bethany had become a real friend, someone Maya could call when the nights felt too quiet. Even Denise checked in regularly, making sure Maya wasn't pushing herself too hard. But every night Maya thought about the baby. By now she'd be over a year old. Walking, maybe saying a few words. Living with people who might love her or might not. Maya would never know. Then, on a Tuesday morning in March, her phone rang. Unknown number, is this Maya Chen? Yes. This is Rita Gonzalez from Child Protective Services. Are you still interested in emergency placement for an infant? Maya's heart stopped. Yes. We have a 6-week-old boy who needs immediate placement. His mother is in the hospital and unable to care for him. Can you take him today? It wasn't the baby girl. This was different. But Maya heard herself saying yes anyway. Be at our office at 2 o'clock. Bring your approval letter. Maya called work and told them she had a family emergency. It wasn't exactly a lie. She spent the next 4 hours in a panic, making sure everything was ready. The crib, the bottles, the diapers. Her hands shook the whole time. At 2 o'clock, she sat in a plastic chair at CPS, clutching her approval letter. A different social worker came out, this one younger and clearly exhausted, carrying a car seat with a tiny baby inside. This is Lucas. He was born premature, so he's small for his age. Here's his formula, his medications, and his feeding schedule. Any questions? Maya had about 1,000 questions, but the social worker was already handing her papers to sign. How long will he be with me? Maya managed to ask. That depends on his mother's recovery. Could be a few days, could be months, probably somewhere in between. And just like that, Maya was a foster parent. The first night was terrifying. Lucas cried every 2 hours. Maya didn't know if she was holding him right, feeding him right, doing anything right. She called Bethany at 3 in the morning, nearly in tears. I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody knows what they're doing, Bethany said calmly. Is he fed? Yes. Changed? Yes. Then you're doing fine. Babies cry. That's normal. You're doing better than you think. By the 2nd week, Maya had figured out Lucas's patterns. He liked to be held a certain way. He slept better with white noise. He had reflux, which explained some of the crying. By the 3rd week, Maya was in love. She knew she wasn't supposed to get attached. Foster care was temporary, but watching this tiny person depend on her completely, trust her, calm down in her arms, it changed something fundamental inside her. This was what it felt like to be needed, to matter to someone. Rita called in week 4. Lucas's mother has made progress. She'll be released from the hospital next week. She wants him back. Maya felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. Already? I know it's fast, but that's how it works sometimes. You did a great job with him. After hanging up, Maya sat on the floor of her apartment and cried. She'd had Lucas for less than a month, and losing him already hurt like losing a part of herself. At group that Thursday, she could barely talk about it. This is why I couldn't foster, Tom said gently. Every goodbye destroyed me. But Denise had a different perspective. You gave that baby a safe place when he needed it most. That matters. Even if it was temporary. It doesn't feel like it matters, Maya said. It just feels like losing someone else I care about. I know. But caring for him changed you. Made you stronger. You're going to need that strength for what comes next. Maya didn't understand what she meant until the following Tuesday. Lucas went back to his mother. Maya's apartment felt emptier than it had before he'd arrived. She threw herself into work, into group, into anything that would distract her from the ache in her chest. Then Patricia called. I need to talk to you about something. Can you come to my office? Maya's stomach dropped. Am I in trouble? No, just come in. Patricia's office was exactly what Maya expected. Files stacked everywhere, coffee cups on every surface, photos of kids taped to the walls. Patricia looked tired as always, but there was something else in her expression. Excitement, maybe. You remember the baby you found? Behind the gas station. Maya sat up straighter. Of course. Her foster placement is falling through. The family is dealing with their own medical issues and can't keep her long term. The state is looking for a new placement, ideally someone interested in adoption. Maya couldn't breathe. You're saying? I'm saying that if you're still interested, I can recommend you. It's not guaranteed. The matching committee will need to review your file. But you have something none of the other applicants have. You have history with her. You saved her life. That means something. Yes, Maya said immediately. Yes, I want to be considered. Maya, wait. Think about this. She's 15 months old now. She's been with her current family since she was a month old. She's bonded to them. Transitioning her is going to be hard. She's going to grieve. She's going to cry for them. It's going to break your heart. I don't care. And there's no guarantee it will work out. Foster to adopt means she's still technically in the system. If a biological relative comes forward and wants her, they get priority. You could have her for months or even a year and still lose her. Maya felt tears on her face but didn't wipe them away. I know all of that. I know it might not work, but I have to try. She's the reason I changed my life. The reason I'm sitting here at all. I have to try. Patricia smiled. Okay then. Let's make this happen. The next 2 weeks were agony. Maya had to go through another round of interviews. She had to explain why she specifically wanted this child. She had to prove that she understood the challenges ahead. The hardest part was the meeting with the baby's current foster mother, a woman named Carol, who'd cared for the baby since she was a month old. They met at a coffee shop, both of them awkward and emotional. I love her, Carol said, tears in her eyes. If I could keep her, I would. But my husband's cancer is back and I can't give her the attention she deserves. I'll take care of her, Maya promised. I'll make sure she knows you loved her. Carol reached across the table and squeezed Maya's hand. You're the one who found her, Patricia told me. That means something, like you were always supposed to be in her life. Maya wanted to believe that, needed to believe it. Finally, after 2 weeks that felt like 2 years, Patricia called. The committee approved the placement. She's yours. Well, as yours as foster to adopt can be. Maya's legs gave out. She sat down hard on her kitchen floor. When? We'll start the transition next week. Slow visits at first, then overnight stays, then full placement. It'll take about a month. A month seemed both too long and too fast. The first time Maya saw the baby since that morning at the hospital, her breath caught. The tiny infant from the parking lot was now a toddler with dark curly hair and huge brown eyes. She was wearing pink overalls and holding a stuffed rabbit. Carol carried her into the visitation room at CPS. This is Maya, she said softly. She's going to be your new mama, the baby, who everyone still called by the temporary name Hope that the nurses had given her, looked at Maya with suspicion and buried her face in Carol's shoulder. Maya's heart cracked a little. This was going to be harder than she'd thought. The visits were supervised at first, 1 hour, 3 times a week. Maya brought toys, read books, tried to play. Hope mostly ignored her, staying close to Carol, occasionally looking at Maya like she was an intruder. Give it time, the supervising social worker said. She needs to learn to trust you. But time felt like torture. Maya wanted to scoop Hope up and tell her everything. Tell her about finding her in that parking lot. Tell her about all the ways their lives had been parallel. Tell her that she understood abandonment and fear and never belonging, and that she was going to make sure Hope never felt those things. But you couldn't explain that to a 15-month-old. You could only be patient. By the third week of visits, Hope started warming up to Maya. She'd bring her toys. She'd sit in Maya's lap while they read books. Once she even laughed at a silly face Maya made. It was the best sound Maya had ever heard. The overnight visits started in week 4. Maya had prepared everything. The crib was set up with soft sheets. The apartment was baby-proofed. She'd read every parenting book she could find about attachment and trauma and helping kids through transitions. But nothing prepared her for Hope's crying that first night. She cried for Carol, cried for the only home she'd ever known. Maya held her and rocked her and sang to her even though her own heart was breaking. "I know," Maya whispered. "I know you're scared. I know you miss her. But I'm here. I'm not leaving. I promise I'm not leaving." By dawn, Hope had finally fallen asleep in Maya's arms, exhausted from crying. Maya sat in the rocking chair, afraid to move, afraid to do anything that might wake her. This was love, she realized. Not the easy kind. The hard kind. The kind that hurt. The first month with Hope was the hardest thing Maya had ever done. Harder than living in her car. Harder than aging out of foster care with nothing. Harder than any of the dark moments she'd survived. Hope cried for Carol constantly. She pushed Maya away during diaper changes, threw food at meals, woke up screaming in the middle of the night, confused about where she was. Some mornings Maya found her standing in the crib, tears streaming down her face, calling for the only mother she'd ever known. And every time it felt like a knife to Maya's heart. Not because Hope didn't love her yet. That was understandable. But because Maya knew exactly what it felt like to lose the person you thought was supposed to keep you safe. She called Bethany almost every night, crying and exhausted. "I don't know if I can do this. She hates me. She doesn't hate you. She's grieving. Let her grieve. How long does it take? As long as it takes." Patricia visited every week to check on them. She always asked the hard questions. Was Maya eating, sleeping, taking care of herself? Was she feeling overwhelmed? Did she need more support? The honest answer was yes to all of it. But Maya also knew that giving up wasn't an option. She'd promised Hope she wouldn't leave. Even if Hope didn't understand that yet. Slowly, things started to change. Hope began to calm down faster when Maya held her. She started eating better. She'd play for longer stretches before looking around anxiously for Carol. And one morning, about 6 weeks in, Hope woke up, saw Maya, and smiled. It was the first genuine smile she'd given her. Maya cried right there in the middle of the bedroom, overwhelmed by the weight of that one small gesture of trust. Work was understanding but strained. Maya had used up most of her leave. Her boss had been patient about the crying baby in the background during phone calls, but Maya knew she was pushing it. She needed to figure out childcare, but daycare cost more than she made in a month. Helen at the Transitional Housing Program connected her with a subsidized daycare that worked with foster families. It wasn't perfect. The building was old and the toys were worn, but the staff was kind. A woman named Rita who ran the infant room had raised 3 foster kids herself. "She'll be okay," Rita said when Maya dropped Hope off for the first time, both of them crying. "And so will you." Maya barely made it to work that day. She called the daycare 3 times to check on Hope. Each time Rita assured her that everything was fine, that Hope had calmed down after about 20 minutes. By the time Maya picked her up that evening, Hope was playing with blocks like nothing had happened. She even reached for Maya when she saw her, which felt like winning the lottery. The months passed. Hope turned 18 months old, then 20 months. She started saying more words. Mama became one of them, and the first time she said it to Maya instead of crying for Carol, Maya had to sit down because her legs wouldn't hold her. Patricia continued checking in, but the visits became more spaced out. The foster-to-adopt status was still in place. The state was working on terminating the birth mother's parental rights, but these things took time, years sometimes. Maya tried not to think about it, tried to just focus on each day, but at night she worried. What if a relative came forward? What if the birth mother cleaned up her life and wanted Hope back? What if Maya had to go through another goodbye? The thoughts kept her awake long after Hope had fallen asleep in the crib next to her bed. At Group 1 Thursday, Maya talked about her fears. About loving Hope so much it hurt. About knowing she might still lose her. Tom said something that stuck with her. "My foster dad used to say that love always comes with the risk of loss. But the alternative is never loving anyone. And that's not really living," Denise added. You're giving her something crucial right now. You're showing her that even when things are hard and scary, someone will be there. That's what she needs to learn. But what if I can't keep her? Then you'll have given her that gift for however long you had her. And that will matter. It will always matter. Maya wanted to believe that. But she also knew what it felt like to lose people. She'd spent her whole life losing people. Hope turned 2 years old on a cold November day. Maya had no idea what her actual birthday was. The police had estimated she was about 2 weeks old when Maya found her, so Maya had chosen the anniversary of that day as her birthday. They had a small party at the apartment. Bethany came with her kids. Tom brought a cake. Even Patricia stopped by with a stuffed animal that Hope immediately clutched to her chest. It was more family than Maya had ever had at once. Watching Hope's face light up as everyone sang happy birthday, Maya felt something shift inside her. This wasn't about her anymore. It had never really been about her. It was about giving this child what Maya had never had. A person who showed up. A person who stayed. A person who chose her. That night, after everyone had gone home and Hope was asleep, Maya sat on the floor of her apartment and thought about that morning 3 years ago. The rain, the parking lot, the cardboard box, the tiny frozen face and those weak little cries. She thought about how close she'd come to walking past that dumpster. How she'd almost been too lost in her own pain to hear the crying. How different everything would have been if she'd arrived 5 minutes later or taken a different route. But she hadn't. She'd been there at exactly the right moment. And that moment had changed 2 lives, not just one. 6 more months passed. Hope was talking in full sentences now, running everywhere, testing boundaries the way toddlers do. She had nightmares sometimes, and Maya would hold her and rock her and promise that she was safe, that no one was going to leave her in the cold, that she was loved. Maya was better at keeping those promises now, better at believing them herself. Then, on a Tuesday morning in May, Patricia called with news that would change everything. The judge signed the termination order. The birth mother's rights are officially terminated. Maya's hand shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. What does that mean? It means you can move forward with the adoption, if you still want to. If I still want to? Maya laughed, half hysterical. Are you serious? I'll start the paperwork today. If everything goes smoothly, you could finalize the adoption in 3 months. After hanging up, Maya sat on the couch in shock. Hope was playing with her blocks on the floor, chattering to herself in the made-up language toddlers use. She had no idea that her entire future had just changed, but Maya knew. Maya felt it in every cell of her body. This little girl was going to be hers, really hers, forever. The next 3 months were a blur of paperwork and court dates and more home studies. Maya's therapist helped her work through the anxiety that came with it. What if something went wrong at the last minute? What if she wasn't good enough? What if Hope eventually resented her for not being her birth mother? You're enough, her therapist kept saying. You've always been enough. Finally, on a warm day in August, Maya stood in a courtroom wearing the nicest dress she owned. Patricia was there. Bethany and Tom were there. Even Helen from the transitional housing program had come. Hope, now 2.5 years old, wore a white dress with flowers on it and kept trying to climb on the judge's bench. The judge, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes, looked at Maya over her glasses. I've read your file, Miss Chen. You've been through a lot. Yes, ma'am. And you're sure you're ready for this? Adoption is permanent. You can't change your mind when things get hard. Maya looked down at Hope, who had finally settled in her lap and was playing with Maya's necklace. I'm sure. She's my daughter. She's always been my daughter. The judge smiled. Then it's my honor to grant this adoption. Hope is legally and forever your child. The courtroom erupted in applause. Maya couldn't see through her tears. She held Hope tight and whispered, You're mine. You're really mine. Hope patted her face with her small hands. Mama crying? Happy crying, Maya managed. Mama's just really happy.